Hello lovely people, today is day 3 of the Booktube-A-Thon and I just got off work. This is very exciting. I had a very productive day at work. Also, I have tomorrow off, which is even more exciting. A whole day to read, a little bit to sleep in, right? I don't have to get up at 3:30 tomorrow morning. So there is lunch. This is Annie's rice pasta and cheddar gluten-free craft dinner equivalent, and I'm not gonna lie, it is amazing. There was more veg, but I snacked on it while I was making this, and this is so good. If you also require the gluten-free, then I would definitely recommend this. So I have just finished Juniper Lemon's Happiness Index by Julie Israel. I thought I called it. To be honest, it's super open-ended and I think you could really go any way. Like you could go with the 2 people I suspected, or it could be just a third random person who the sister was writing to and we will never know. But I personally think that given certain tense relationships between Juniper and other humans and like certain cues and Camilla's secrecy, I think I've pinned it right. If you read this book, keep an eye out for my review because I would actually like to discuss it with people who have read it and see if anyone else agrees with me. I am going to be filming a review for this right after this. I'm also sort of debating what to move on to next, and here are my 2 choices. So I've got The Lightbearer's Daughter by O.R. Melling, which is a piece of middle grade fantasy. It's one of the older things on my TBR. And then my other thought is to read On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher, a wonderful person here on YouTube. I'm gonna think about that while I film. Hey guys, so I just finished filming my review. I have a recycled Starbucks cup with some homemade tea in it, some iced Earl Grey cream from Red Teapot, a like Ontario local brand. I think I'm gonna head back outside because even though it's not sunny, it's not raining either. I really want to start On the Other Side. So I think I'm gonna go with what I am passionate about and what I'm most interested in at this moment because why not? Hey guys, so got a pot of tea brewing for tomorrow and I am just making myself some dinner. So I am making some garlic chickpeas and I have my lettuce chopped up. I have some cucumber to go in it and have to chop up some tomatoes. And I'm making myself a little wrap for dinner. Look at that. So I'm going to enjoy this and go back to reading for a little bit. Today, I actually watched a really interesting discussion video. I took a little break and I watched a discussion video from Elizabeth Shelf Life here on YouTube. She has a relatively small booktube channel, but she is very articulate. And she did this really good discussion video on whether or not it's possible for slow readers to be part of the booktube community. And I thought it was really interesting because I am one of those people who genuinely reads quite quickly. I spend a lot of time reading. There's an ant just eyeing my wrap. Look at him. I do read quickly, and I feel like I have to read quickly for my job just to sort of keep up to date on things, and I have to read quickly. I had to read quickly while in school. Like, it's just not possible for me to savor books in that way, and it's sort of a habit I've developed. So I'm really not the audience that Elizabeth is talking to there, but it's an interesting thing to think about because there is a pressure to make content fairly regularly, and if you're reading one book over 2 months and you don't read multiple books the way I do, what are you contributing? Like, what can you contribute in terms of book reviews or in terms of videos that aren't sort of the filler content, like hauls and TBR piles and Top 5 Wednesdays, like those list videos and that stuff, I sort of consider filler videos because I don't have to read anything to make them. I just have to look through my shelves and compile a list of things. So it got me thinking, and I would recommend checking out her video. I will leave it linked down below. Good morning, guys. It is day 4 of the Booktube-A-Thon. Today I have the day off, so I got to sleep in. It's actually really exciting. Don't laugh. I made myself some breakfast. I have some toast with peanut butter and bananas, and I have some strawberries. I have recycled my Starbucks cup and filled it up with Queen of Tarts, which is the tea from David's Tea. And I am just listening to this podcast with Alfie Days, who is talking about being on YouTube and being a daily vlogger and that experience. I'm gonna finish my breakfast, I'm gonna take a shower, get ready for today, and then I'm gonna start reading. So it's about 11:30 now, and I don't know what it is about today, but I am just feeling like crap. So today I had the day off work, so I didn't have to get up at 3:30 a.m. So last night I stayed up till 10:30, which I don't normally do. I do try and go to bed early because I'm getting up so early. And then on top of like staying up late, I slept in till 8:30. So like everything is thrown off, and then normally because I'm up so early, I've had like 2 cups of coffee or tea by the time I start work, and then usually at my 7:30 break I get another cup of coffee, and then now that I'm a gold member at Starbucks, I refill my coffee when I leave work. So like normally by the time I get home at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've had a lot of caffeine. So I don't know if it's the weather, like it is a really thick muggy day, they're calling for some nasty thunderstorms today, or if it's the lack of caffeine, but I have like the worst headache and my body just aches. I couldn't focus on reading, so I ended up watching a bunch of Carrie's old YouTube videos because I'm reading her book right now. I think I am probably going to make a cup of something hot to drink and then try and focus, because like today's my day off. I'm supposed to be enjoying it. I was looking forward to this day so much because it would be a whole day to read, and like it's just not going that way. It is not working out the way I planned. I spent most of the afternoon reading On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I read 297 pages and it was really cute. It was a really cute, happy-making, hopeful story. I do feel a little bit bad for one of the characters who I think just got royally screwed. But all in all, it was a cute read, and I am glad I read it, and I am looking forward to reading Carrie's next book. So it's almost 3:15, and I am thinking of picking another book to read. So I have decided to go with Been Here All Along, just because it sounds the cutest. So we have a story about 2 boys, 2 best friends, next door neighbors, Gideon and Kyle, and they feel like they can tell each other everything. They have great friendship. They're Lord of the Rings nerds, and the only problem is that Gideon is in love with Kyle and Kyle has a girlfriend. It sounds cute. It's not that long, so I feel like I could probably finish it today. The sun came out. It turned into a beautiful day. It is ridiculously hot outside now. It started out kind of cold this morning. I have got ready for the evening. My partner is coming over and we are gonna have dinner. Yeah, so I have about an hour left to read. So last update for the day, I am 48 pages into Been Here All Along, and it is sorry, I just saw my partner walk by the house. And it is so cute. I love it so much, and I'm so excited to read this. I am gonna fly through this tomorrow. So that is it for day 4. I'm gonna go out for dinner, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 5. Bye. It is day 5 of the Booktube-A-Thon. It is about 11:15, and I have got home from work. I planned the next month of my bullet journal, so now I'm gonna start the Booktube-A-Thon reading for today. Okay, so I just finished Been Here All Along by Sandy Hall, and it was adorable, like totally predictable. It just made me feel all the feels. 5 out of 5 stars. So pleased. I think I'm gonna cut together as much of this video as I can. Today is day 6 of the Booktube-A-Thon, and I realized that yesterday I missed the coolest video challenge ever. And I know that I can't enter the giveaway, but I still wanted to make this video because this is something that I'm passionate about. The challenge yesterday was to build a class list around a book that you are reading. So I'm not currently reading this book that I would put on the class list, but I'm reading the conclusion to this series, so I think it still counts. And the book that I'm going to base my class list around is Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys and the Raven Cycle. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I personally am super interested in fantasy literature, gender in fantasy literature specifically. That's what I did my MA thesis on. And I've been trying to work out how to sort of translate my 100-odd paged thesis paper, my dissertation, into video format. And I think thinking through this question, thinking through this challenge has sort of helped me to do that. And so if I were to teach a course, it would be on, right now, my research interests are gender and magic and the ways in which that sort of plays out in fantasy texts, different fantasy texts. I would be teaching a 4th-year seminar course. It would be a very small course that would require a lot of discussion. Like I said, the course would be gendered magic in fantasy. So I think where we would have to start is with some theory. You cannot start a course without some theory. So I would include fantasy literature, the Cambridge Companion to Fantasy Literature, edited by Edward James and Farah Mendelssohn. So this would just give us a basic understanding of the genre that we are going to be talking through. And I think it's important to really think through what the fantasy genre does specifically, what it has to offer. I think this would be really helpful to give everybody the same starting point. Once we know what fantasy literature is, we would be reading Rosemary Jackson's Fantasy, the Literature of Subversion. So she talks in here about the ways in which fantasy has a unique potential to be subversive and to subvert societal norms. So I think this would be really important to include in a course talking about gender and magic. Then of course I would include some feminist literature. We would read some selections from Judith Butler's Gender Trouble, and then we would read more pieces as sort of partners to Judith Butler of Gaga Feminism, Sex, Gender, and the End of Normal by J. Jack Halberstam, because this is more accessible. This is talking about a lot of the things that Judith Butler talked about, but in a much more accessible manner. Judith Butler is unnecessarily complex in her language, and while I think it's important to go to the roots, I think it's important that it's also understandable. So I would pair up certain chapters from each of these books to give us a foundation to talk about gender and the ways in which gender is constructed. Then we would talk about the fantasy literature itself, and we would go back to the beginning, and we would read Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and we would look at specifically the magic and who is doing the magic. So we have 2 wizards to sort of compare. I personally haven't decided how I would teach this, but I think in terms of chronology, this is the next oldest, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And so in contrast to Lord of the Rings, where there are no women at all, here we have women who exclusively have access to magic, at least in the first book. And so it would be interesting to compare what that does, who has the access to magic. I would also look at Magic in the Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, because we're looking at magic in a university setting, and there seems to be men and women here at this university learning magic, so gender doesn't seem to be some sort of obstacle that keeps people out of the university. But are there, because I wasn't paying attention to this when I read this, but I think it would be interesting if I were teaching this to think about who is doing what kinds of magic. I would read that alongside of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling, because here we have magic, again in the Institute. We seem to have magic that is accessible to both genders equally, but I think it would be interesting to think about how magic is channeled, and that is through the wand, and the wand is a phallic symbol. And I think it would be interesting to discuss the wand as a phallic symbol and taking on the phallus in order to have the power of magic. I would like to read some Tamora Pierce, and so we have specifically The Woman Who Rides Like a Man as part of the Song of the Lioness series, in which Alana ends up a teacher to 3 magical students compared to Dane's magic. So we have the sort of institutionalized warrior magic that's valuable for fighting and healing, and then we have the more intuitive, natural magic that Dane does with the animals, we would compare also to the magic that Tom does and that Numair does, because Tom and Numair have both been taught magic in the university. And so sort of compare the ways in which women do magic to the ways in which men do magic. And then we would read Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Agnieszka gets taken on as the apprentice of the dragon, the wizard the dragon. And the dragon has very institutionalized ways of doing magic. And it, like, you do A plus B and it always equals C in his, like, book-taught magic. Whereas Agnieszka takes these things and makes spells work, but she describes it as, like, picking a path through the forest intuitively opposed to following the marked trail every time. And the ways in which certain spells work for her when they don't work for the dragon, and how gender sort of comes into play in the ways in which they perform their magic. Finally, I would talk about the book that inspires us, the book on my TBR, and that is The Raven Boys. And we have sort of a different type of magic. We have the women at 300 Foxway who do, like, card reading and psychic stuff, and they are in a totally female-centered place. And they do their magic, they do their card readings, and they support each other in this all-women space, and talk about the ways in which they have a unique power over, say, the boys who come for tarot card readings. That is the course that I would teach. Overall, I would just like to, I think a seminar course might be better, because if it was a lecture course for undergrads, like an open lecture course, it would have to be me talking at people and having answers, which I could probably do. I could come up with, like, a thesis for my course, but I think it would be more interesting to teach it as a seminar course and to not have answers, to have theories and sort of pose questions to my seminar course, just bounce ideas off of people as we read this text, see what different people come up with. So that is the course that I would teach. Let me know in the comments down below, what sort of course would you teach? Would you take this course? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.